Добро вечер, благодарам што сте со нас.
Добро вечер.
Моето прво прашање се однесува на надежите на македонската влада дека во јуни Советот на Европската Унија може да донесе политичка одлука за почеток на преговорите за членство. Дали е тоа достижно и возможно, господин Бибер?
Well, I would say that it's quite possible. Of course, so far the only countries which have been mentioned in this kind of package is Serbia and Montenegro, but I think it's possible for Macedonia to join the club and again have the invitation for starting negotiations. I think there are two sides which are very important. On one side is clear signs of the government that it's engaging in reforms and kind of recommitting the country to EU integration after many years of a rather dubious commitment. And the second one is to make some tangible progress when it comes to the negotiations and discussions of the name issue with Greece, because of course at the end of the day the decision whether or not Macedonia can take the next step is subject to the veto or the consent of all EU member states, and that includes Greece, of course.
Кога сме кај улогата на Грција, можна ли е некаква формула во која Македонија ќе ги почне пристапните преговори, а прашањето за името ќе биде оставено за решавање во раната фаза од тој пристапен процес?
Well, certainly. I mean, I would argue that one option is to try to address the issue altogether, but certainly the EU accession process has so many steps before membership, where Greece can object at any point, can put a veto. So just certainly sending the signal of saying we are happy that Macedonia starts accession negotiations does not mean the end of Greece's ability to veto the process later on. So I think it would be very important for EU member states to convince Greece to say, let Macedonia move forward this next step, and then the actual addressing of the bilateral issues is something which can be dealt with over time whenever there's an opportunity to do so.
Иако се чини дека има обновен интерес на Брисел и на земјите членки за регионот и за процесот на пристапување, сепак има една вознемирувачка вест сигнал кој што дојде преку еден настап на Јункер, председателот на Европската комисија, во кој што навести, а сега има информации дека Европската комисија подготвува стратешки документ во кој што 2025 година ќе биде одредена како краен рок за прием, но само на Србија и на Црнагора, без при тоа да бидат споменати другите земји аспирантки за членство во Европската Унија. Дали тоа може да биде обесхрабрувачки, особено за Македонија?
Well, I think it was certainly unfortunate that in the statement it mentioned exclusively Serbia and Montenegro. I would have wished the statement would have said, and all the other countries if they are ready. And I would understand the statement very much to mean that these are the two countries which are in accession talks. And this is why, of course, the date is more realistic for those who've began talks. But I certainly believe that a country like Macedonia could catch up very easily if it's given the opportunity. I mean, considering that there used to be a time when Macedonia was the front runner in the process, and with political will, many of the chapters, many of the negotiations in the accession process can be done fairly quickly if there is a commitment of a government. So from that point of view, other countries might have a harder time. Kosovo certainly has a harder time. Bosnia and Herzegovina has a harder time because of internal problems with Bosnia, and with Kosovo, the non-recognition. Albania and Macedonia are certainly two countries which could very quickly catch up. And I think the whole idea would be to create a new dynamic of competition, of positive competition. And the more countries are competing, the better the results. So I would say that one shouldn't take it as a discouragement to the statement by Juncker. Certainly the EU will work on a new strategy for making it possible within that time frame. But I wouldn't think that the list of countries is closed, that this was saying these two are none of the others. It was just stating that those two countries are the countries which are the front runners at the moment. But I would not take it as a discouragement to say there's no chance of catching up. So I would see the door is open, it's not closed. It's just that maybe the language was a little bit unfortunate in suggesting that. What is, I think, crucial is that this new strategy also develops new tools of how to bring the countries in. I mean, this is the first time the EU has mentioned a date ever an accession process.
Да, кога сме околу ова, сакам да ве прашам, бидејќи Србија на некој начин се спомнува како земја која што во повластена позиција, да се разбира, тие веќе преговараат за членство во Европската Унија, но дали мислите дека пристапниот процес ја трансформира Србија во функционална демократија? Се чини дека некои потези кои што ги влече пред се председателот Вучич, но и владата која очигледно е под негова контрола, не одат баш во таа насока.
Well, this is the paradox that to some degree the government in Serbia might be in a professional level ticking the boxes of the EU accession process, so it certainly does many of the things which are technically required. But substantially, when it comes to substantial, liberal, democratic, consolidated institutions with a division, with rule of law and a clear separation of powers, that is not happening in Serbia. In fact, it's gotten worse. Media freedoms have gotten worse in Serbia. The independence of institutions has gotten worse. When we see non-stop one person dominating the news cycle and kind of nearly exclusively in positive reporting, and that's the president. Also, it's a de facto presidential system, although Serbia, by its constitution, just like Macedonia, has a limited powers for the president. So this shows you that there's a problem of the EU strategy, that it's very much looking at the technicalities, but not at the substance of reforms. And this is where I would hope that the European Commission, in rethinking the strategy, doesn't just think about how to complete the process by 2025, but rather to make sure that we're having substantial democracies. Because one thing I'm sure about is that there are some problematic EU member states when it comes to the state of democracy, but certainly countries like the Netherlands or Germany will not want to have more EU members which are problematic when it comes to the state of democracy. So with that kind of understanding, Serbia will not be able to join at the end of the day with a government dominated by one person, in particular a government by Aleksandar Vučić. So he might formally move the country forward, but I have a very strong reservation that he's going to be the one who is going to be joining the EU institutions in 8 years' time, if this is really going to happen.
Во тој контекст неодамна од Белград имавме шанса да го слушнеме високиот американски дипломат Хој Ти како порачува дека Србија и другите земји во регионот не може да седат на две столчиња во исто време. И тоа не е прв пат да го кажува и зачестија таквите силни пораки, особено во насока на критика на, како што велат американците, малигните влијанија на Русија во регионот. Зошто имаат потреба сад да нагласено да го прават тоа, господин Бибер?
Well, first of all, I think America has become increasingly worried about Russian influence, more so than in the past. I think America took events in Montenegro very seriously last year. We don't know exactly what happened, whether it was a genuine coup d'etat or whatever incidents happened, but I think America thought this was a serious threat, and it certainly accelerated Montenegro's NATO membership. But also events in Macedonia were taken very serious. I mean, Hoyt Yi came to Skopje, he also came to Tirana. I think the State Department, maybe not the Trump administration as a whole, but the State Department takes this region very seriously, and mostly because it wants to make sure that Russia is not using this region to create troubles. And this trouble, of course, is one which can escalate in a negative way very quickly. So I think the clear goal of the US is to make sure that this region is not doesn't become a part of geopolitical games where Russia is playing a role. And that was the message. I mean, again, as you said, this is not the first time. I mean, the American government has been saying this many times. In particular, in Serbia, this is striking because Serbian foreign policy is not aligned with EU foreign policy, for example.
А какви се интересите на Русија во регионот? Што е интерес на Русија овде?
I think Russia's engagement is mostly opportunistic. I always don't think that Russia has a strategic goal in the region besides creating difficulties for the EU and for NATO and for the United States, so making life a bit more difficult. It's clear, I mean, the region is now, the Western Balkans is surrounded by NATO member states. I mean, from Albania, Montenegro, Croatia, to Romania, Bulgaria. So from that point of view, there's no question that this is within the very clear sphere of influence of NATO. So Russia has very limited abilities to act, but it's mostly playing the role of a spoiler. It doesn't offer much, the region, but it mostly just uses to poke a little bit, to kind of take revenge on when it considers Western engagement in its own sphere of influence. And that, of course, works if you have governments or countries which are sympathetic or which seek to get something from Russia in return.
И за крај едно прашање поврзано со неодамнешните избори во Австрија. Вие доаѓате од универзитетот во Грац, добро ја познавате австриската политичка сцена. Победи Себастијан Курц, тој ќе биде новиот канцелар на Австрија. Што значи неговата победа? Во днешната јавност прва асоциација на Курц е неговата поддршка на ВМРО ДПМН е тој ќе формира десничарска влада. Што значи тоа за регионот и за амбициите за напредување кон НАТО и ЕУ?
Well, first of all, what it seems most likely is that the new government in Austria will be one formed by Sebastian Kurz and his Conservative Party together with the Freedom Party, which is a far right-wing party. What it will mean certainly is that Austria will be less engaged in the Western Balkans. It's going to be less of a strategic partner in the way it has been in the past, because this government will be more internally looking. The electoral campaign was nearly exclusively about migration. It was nearly exclusively about the fear of new refugees coming to Austria. So the main foreign policy goal of Austria will be to prevent a reoccurrence of the Western Balkan route to be open. And this will be the priority. And this is unfortunately going to mean that the Austrian government will be less engaged when it comes to supporting the substantial transformation of the countries. It probably will remain somewhat optimistic about enlargement, because mostly Austrians who are voting for the Freedom Party are against Turkish membership. They are less negative about the membership of the Western Balkans, although they're not very encouraging. So it's going to be more difficult. Austria will not be an as good partner when it comes to the countries of the region as it might have been in the past.
Благодарам многу што бевте дел од 360 степени.